folks. Today is the 10th of December, 2024. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, a clothing company that is so much more than just a clothing company. We discuss the skeletal system of the human body and allow it to work through mostly clothing and other things. I'm going to discuss one of those things that I mention pretty much in all the intros that I do for anything related to In The Image Clothing Company, about how we allow the body to work, which I say that our hands have this natural rounding to them, this natural radius, right? A radius is like if you were to take a circle and cut it in half. The radius is like half the side of a circle. And then if you do the half side plus the other half side, that's what we call a diameter, from, the center out to the outside. So the point is, our hands, well, if you put your hands together, right, it's like making a circle. So one of your hands has a radius, a rounding like this, okay? And we live in a flat, modern 2024, and we discuss this within In The Image Clothing Company. And a lot of the things that we have are so flat. Our cell phones, any other kind of technology like that, it's very common for them to be flat. I mean, they pretty much all are. Countertops, flooring, all these things. And I talk about how the hand has rounding and it wants texture. The feet have this gripped arch that want texture. So I'm going to get into that a lot with specifically ukuleles and guitars, two things that I have a lot of experience with. And this little avenue of In The Image Clothing Company here being In The Image Clothing Company Music, that's what we're going to talk about within this video here. So, yeah. Clothing, as we discussed, needs to sit entirely above the hips, slightly higher in the front than the rear. These are things for every human, no matter your size or gender, male or female, age, just to allow the body to work. Shirts, tops, whatever, goes on the upper part of your human being. The top seams need to be behind that little bone that's actually your collarbone, just to allow them to be in their natural position. And then ideally just right at the very edges for those edge seams of the shoulders. Now, everything still applies In The Image Clothing Company wise. We do have our two prerequisites: lacing your shoes with our shoelacing technique. Included with that is just to tie them evenly over toward the inside on both feet. Pairing that with the second prerequisite of removing all the tags from everything that you wear. We always discuss that just to allow the body to have a chance. Then we get into depth from there. So here we talk about this ukulele. We are called In The Image Clothing Company for a reason. Everything we do is centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ to the best of what we can. Being a video like this, I'm not going to really have too much gospel discussion within this necessarily, but yes, that is why we are called In The Image Clothing Company, because we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. Now, when it comes to ukuleles and it comes to guitars, I've talked very often about my experience with guitars, and I've had a lot of them. I learned a lot, though, having a lot of guitars. I wasn't just buying a bunch of guitars because I wanted to spend a bunch of money and I thought I needed better ones and things. That's not what I was doing. What I was doing is I'd buy a guitar, I'd tear it apart. You've got, on a guitar or a ukulele, it's got pretty much the same parts. Pretty much the same thing, but one has 4 strings and one has 6. The ukulele has 4, the guitar has 6. So, I'm going to do a little parts rundown real quick. This white part here is called the saddle, okay? The strings come down and they do like a break angle over that saddle. This black part here is called the bridge. This is the top plate. This is the top wood, right? That makes up the top plate of the guitar. This, from right here to right here, is the body of the ukulele. Okay, this is the back. These are the sides. The sides are usually one piece that they bend. Well, a lot of times what they'll do is have a seam here. So you have one piece here, and then over here you'll have one piece here, and they'll meet in the middle. So that's normally how it is. I don't know if sometimes they do it all as one solid strip. Normally there's a seam right in the very bottom. Okay, now this is the fretboard. People call it a fingerboard. And on the fretboard, being that black part, are frets. These little gold bronze looking things. They're metal. They are frets. That's where you put your fingers between those things to make different sounds, right? Okay. Now, and when you do that, you place your finger in between the fret, but you do it closer toward the bottom of the fret, as if like that space that's in there where the string will bend into, you want to slide your finger kind of to the bottom of where you can, in between whichever fret you're in. Okay, so that's when you're like actually fretting a note. You'll put your fingers between there and press it all the way to like the bottom of that space in each of the frets. Now this here is called the nut. This other white part, similar material, usually the same material on the specific instrument as the saddle. That's where the strings do their break angle into the headstock. This part from the nut upward is called the headstock. On the headstock, you've got your tuning pegs here. This has 4, 1 for each string. And then back here, these are your tuning gears. These ones are shaped like dolphins. And then you've got your tuning knobs, right? These black pieces here that allow you to actually twist the gears to twist the string tighter and tune it. That's the rundown. That's the pieces of this little thing here that we call a ukulele. Or an ukulele, huh? Yeah, all right. So here's the thing. I've talked so often about the necessity to have a radius within the things that we use to accommodate the radius within our hands. I have a video for In the Image Clothing Company titled How Cell Phones Affect Body Mechanics. I show this. I have a video titled How Musical Instruments Affect Body Mechanics, and I show this. I have specific videos titled Incorporating a Radius in Daily Life. There's a few of those that I've made where I discuss the importance of what this radius will do to affect the entire rest of your body from just your hand. So, with ukuleles, it's almost always the case that they have a flat saddle, straight flat across, a flat fretboard. So each one of the frets is just flat, 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 each one of them. And then a flat nut, right? And then you have the slots in there, but they're normally at such an even height to where it's just flat, okay? That's normally how you'll find ukuleles. And, well, if you're placing a hand that has, as I've shown, your fingers just naturally wrap around your thumb, like that. There's a natural radius stemming at the tips of your fingers, at those pads, that travels up into your hand. Okay, the pinky is shorter, and the middle finger is the longest. It kind of goes up and down, and so when you put that on something, it needs to be able to, like, round. See that? Radius. That's just how the hand works. So we need to accommodate that with everything that we do within our lives. Now here's a little ukulele in my hands. What I did just now, is take a file, just a regular like metal file, kind of like a nail file, but like, you know, more for like automotive work or metalworking type stuff. And I took the strings off. I actually put these strings on it today. Got this thing today used. And I took the saddle out and I sanded it just slightly. So it's like slanting off to the sides. So it's slightly radiused. And it's very slight. It is. But very, very noticeable. And I also went up and down all the frets with the file kind of like this and just And then the other side, just like that. And what that did is give it just the absolute slightest little radius within it. Now, at the nut, the thing is, the slots are pretty much all the same depth, but the strings are different. Here's the thing with the ukulele, is my fingers, I mean, the fretboard is less narrow than 3 of my fingers. And then if I add a 4th, I mean, my hand's much wider than this fretboard. I'm 6 foot 2 inches tall. I've got bigger hands than most people. Just statistically, I'm well above average height and arm span, hand size, just for the population of the globe, okay? But pretty much anybody's hand's going to be wider than the fretboard. So what that does is almost give you a radius, just because these 2 middle strings are thicker than the 2 outer strings. This one's high pitched. This is a high G. This one's high pitched. That's an A. G, C, E, A. And then this C and this E are lower than both of the outer 2. These are the inner 2. These are the outer 2. Okay, so the narrower diameter of the string, like I talked about at the beginning, take a circle, and across the center from side to side is the diameter. We cut that in half, right, to get the radius of our hand, like I showed. The diameter of those middle 2 strings is bigger, so that's what allows the note to actually be lower, is because as they vibrate, they're just thicker, and so they go a little bit slower. Okay, in simple terms, that's really all that's happening. Seriously, actually, it's not only simple terms, that's just what it is. So since those middle 2 are thicker, they're going to be higher up in the middle than on the edge 2 strings. So that gives you a tiny little radius. It really does. But then, since from the edge of the string to the edge of the fretboard on these outer 2 strings, the G and the A, there's like an 1/8 of an inch here. That gives you a radius in a sense as well, because you've dropped from the height of the middle string down to the height of the outer string. But then from the outer string, even if it's fretted against the fretboard, like pressed down, still from that string to the fretboard, now it comes down again. And so there really is kind of a radius just because your hand's wider than the fretboard. So there kind of is already, and then, you know, doing that sanding there of the edges of the frets, really now there's a radius. Even if it's really slight, there's a radius there. And this also, okay? And then the nut, what I was saying with that is the thickness of the strings. It allows there to be, even if it's very slight, there is a radius there. And with the body, the human body is a sensory machine. And, right, our sense of touch, our nervous system, we notice things without intellectually noticing it. Our bodies notice it. So even if the radius is just so absolutely slight, if your body can sense it, then your body can sense it. So it will activate the muscles in a natural way rather than trying to use something flat. It takes your whole shoulder and then twists your spine and your whole body because you're trying to use your hand in a position it just doesn't work in. We always say at In The Image Clothing Company, the human body is just designed to work. It will work unless there's a reason that it couldn't. There'd be no reason why it wouldn't. And those reasons could be anything. But unless there's a reason, it would just work. It's supposed to. Right? Times and places for everything. There's reasons for everything. So, anyway. That is so important to do. Have a radius within what you're playing. We'll get into guitars when I get a guitar. I don't currently have one. I'll get one. It'll be a good little nylon string radiused guitar. We'll get one. So for ukuleles though, same thing applies. You have to have, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm telling you how the human body skeletal system connects. You have to have a slight radius there, or you're going to hurt your body. You're going to put it through things. You're going to cramp up your hands, your shoulders, your breathing, the arches in your feet, everything through your whole body will be altered if there's not that natural little bit, at least, of a radius within there. Now, that's nowhere near the type of radius that a guitar would have in it, or some companies actually make ukuleles with a radius in them, and you can find those, but it's just not very common. It might become a lot more common. Because for the longest time, even guitars just had flat everything, and then now they don't. So, yeah. Anyway, it's probably out of tune, but anyway, just kind of wanted to pick through it just so you can see that it still works after I took a file to it. I'm somebody who does stuff like that. If you know In The Image Clothing Company, me being the founder, you probably know that I modify things when it comes to clothing, and I've done that to stuff like this a lot within my life. So, because the point is, you have to. If you want it to be able to be played, and then you can just get up and walk away when you're done and go throughout your life without having to rehab your body, then do this, and you won't have to rehab your body. And when I say do this, I don't mean you have to do this work. I just mean there's some things that are required to be able to perform that movement the way that the body will perform that movement. And it's not like this, flat. It's just open, right? Open hand, open palm, rounding, radius. Then you just have mobility naturally. So that is what I'm going to say is ukulele requirements for a natural body, because otherwise you're just not gonna you're not gonna be having a good time. You're gonna be putting the instrument down and not playing it. Even if you would have liked it, you're going to get physical pain within your body, and you're just gonna stop playing. You're going to get frustrated. You're gonna get really emotional. You know how I know is out of experience, with plenty of trial and error to learn all these things, just like with clothing. That's how I have founded In The Image Clothing Company, is trial and error, prayer, practicing things in whatever way that needs to happen in order to know how the body actually works, just out of personal experience. That's how it's come about. So, yes, ukuleles. Yeah. Checklist. We'll do that, run through it. I actually just made a video a little bit earlier because, like I said, this is brand new to me, even though it's used. And I showed this where when you string ukuleles or any musical instrument with strings, dare I say, I haven't played all of them, but nylon string guitars, ukuleles, steel strings, the way that you can have that happen, they're just different because you don't tie strings, you just kind of put them through the tuning pegs, and at the bottom they have a ball on the end that just goes down with normally bridge pins. But when it comes to ukuleles and nylon string guitars, which I'll show when I get one again, the strings have to be coming out, right? So these top two strings here, as they're coming up to these tuning pegs, they're going up, up. And then these bottom two strings, people call this end of the top, but these strings down here, the higher two, Yes. In the ukulele's case, it's a G, C, E, A. It's an E and an A. They need to be going this way, okay? So you see that they're pulling like outward toward the tuning pegs. Now down here, you need to do all you can to where they're going to be pulling outward as well. So with the little tail ends of those strings, you want them to be sticking out. For these two over here, you want them to be sticking this way. And for these two over here, you want them to be sticking this way. So you tie that little knot in the end that holds it there, and you want the tail going out, okay, out. So as I discussed, what that does is allow it to, you want your hand to be closing together and working in a position as if it's gripping toward itself. And so if the strings are pulling away, then as you pluck at them, the effort that goes in is on the inward part, and then they'll want to spring back out. Okay, so you're closing your hand each time that you pick, right? If I were to pick through something, I'm closing as the strings are pulling away. And then when you're strumming, same thing. When you go down, the first strings you hit are trying to pull up and you're pushing them down. And then when you come up, the first strings you hit are trying to go down and you're pulling them up. So it's really good for your body. It actually does a lot for the volume of the instrument as well. And that way they're just being pulled in line, right? Up here it's being pulled this way, and up here or down here it's being pulled that way as well. So it's like locked in place rather than different things happening in any combination on either end of where the strings attach. So cool little things to know that most all people don't. Even people who've been playing ukulele for a long time, they meaning the majority of them probably don't know that stuff that I just said. And it'll just help anybody and everybody, no matter how experienced you are, if you're brand new first day, no matter what, it's going to be absolute night and day difference trying to play this thing if you know the things that I discussed in this video. So yeah, cool. This is cool little blue, light blue ukulele. The reason I say that is because it's, I don't know, it's a cute little thing. It's very small. And yeah. So yeah, get that radius in there with everything you do. Everything you do, everything you do, everything you do, everything you do. Everything in life needs a radius for the hand. Everything in life needs some sort of texture, ideally for the feet. When I say ideally, I mean we live on tile and concrete and things, so sometimes we can't, by our own doings, add texture to all the flooring we could potentially walk on. But something like this that you're going to be using and you have in your hands doing all these little movements, you need to, unless you want to suffer the consequences seriously, have a radius within it. So yeah, okay. I'm just going to pick through some things a little bit. It's probably out of tune, but yeah, because the hand, if you're going to have a neutral open palm, a neutral wrist, fingers be in just a position where they're going to open and close freely without trying to like bind up, then that's what the radius is going to accommodate. So anyway, I'm not too worried about how it sounds or what, because we'll get into this with music, with stringed instruments. We're gonna get into playing some stringed instruments again. Yeah, after all that my body transformation wise has gone through, as far as just getting back to its natural position after what I've done to it through this life, knowingly or unknowingly, to put it into patternings, the same patternings that we all get into because we all live within the same world, physical, right? I mean, you know, now my body's in a position where it's allowed to just work, and you know, we'll continually just get better at doing that and more natural at being natural, which is strange, but that's how we do things as human beings. I now know what needs to happen for things like this, guitars, ukuleles. So we do have this in the Image Clothing Company music, and so yeah, I'm gonna need to get a guitar. When I say I'm going to need to, I mean out of that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, we'll see. Meaning, you'll be able to see, whoever views any of these videos, what I mean by I need to get a guitar, because it's something that is kind of, you know, there's things that we're kind of like meant to do, and I've never had a single guitar lesson, and it just comes natural. It feels good. I just kind of have music come through me when I have a guitar in my hand. That's why I said we'll see, meaning through these videos, it'll be shown what I'm talking about, because it's kind of almost like I earned it, in a sense. Earned being able to have the opportunity to play, because I did play guitar a lot for about a year, but I did it not quite correct, as in there's a lot that needed to be tweaked within the setup and within my body, as I said. And so I did a lot of work, in all seriousness. A lot of literal physical pain that I went through, a lot of emotional stuff, spiritual stuff, seriously, trying to work through all that I needed to be able to, like I said, almost earn being able to play guitar. And when I was playing guitar, when I was playing guitar, I kept saying how I'm going to play guitar for the rest of my life. And I kept saying how that's just how it was going to be. And then now I haven't had one for about 3 months. But I wasn't saying that out of my own doing when I was saying I was going to play guitar for the rest of my life. I was saying it because I just knew it, and I didn't even decide it. And we'll get into talking about this as and when we do, when it comes to having a guitar again in my hands. But even though this is a ukulele, same things apply. I might kind of run over it again or go through it thoroughly, either way, when I do have a guitar here to show. But like I said, ukuleles and guitars are pretty much the exact same thing. If people get a little bit nitpicky about that, that's the truth. They're pretty much the exact same thing. You just add 1-2 more strings and you've got a guitar. And I've had enough experience with both to be able to say that. So yeah. Okay. Cool. It's gonna be really cool to have this. I'm gonna just say this for sake of context. If anybody wants to get into playing ukulele, and as much as this gets shown through anything that we do at In The Image Clothing Company Music, which I feel like we're probably going to do quite a bit with this thing, you know. For some context, this was $20 in total, but the ukulele itself, used, I bought it at the Deseret Industries, right, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the thrift store. It was $10, and then I bought a new pair of set of strings, for $10 plus tax, but it wasn't over $11 as far as I'm aware. US currency, right? So $20, give or take, and you've got this thing, and it's good to go. I mean, I told you what I did to it, and I would recommend having those things be able to happen, whether you have to do it yourself or somebody could do it for you at a music shop, or, like I said, purchase a ukulele that already has those things from the factory. That's something that is an option to do, and then you're set, man. So as far as just, it'll just do what it does at that point. All right, cool little thing. It's a Mahalo MR1LBU. It's the Rainbow series. It's their just, you know, quote unquote cheap ukulele, as in affordable. It's entry level, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't do all you wanted to on it. It really doesn't. It does not. And again, that's another one of those things that I have every quote unquote right to say, because like I was saying, it's like I've earned it. I've torn apart ukuleles and guitars, and I've replaced each individual piece, I mean, almost down to everything. Seriously, tuning pegs, nuts and saddles. I've put preamp, pickup things, whatever you want to word it as, into guitars. I haven't done that with the ukuleles, but I've torn these things apart, put them back together, strings, all sorts of, I mean, I've, you know, strap buttons, yeah. So, I don't want to be like egoic, like I know what I'm talking about, but it's similar to when it comes to the Image Clothing Company stuff about the human body. I say like I know what I'm talking about. Doesn't mean I can't make mistakes in what I'm saying, but it's because I really do. I've gone through what I've needed to be able to know what I'm talking about. So, all right, cool stuff, man. Cool. It just looks so much better when it's strung this way. I mean, it's we do it for the reasons I said, but in addition to that, it just makes it look so much better than if it were to be strung the way that ukuleles generally come up at the headstock end. So, yes, cool. All right, sweet. We are In The Image Clothing Company. This is In The Image Clothing Company Music. We will have clothing available, being a clothing company made out of 100% natural materials, allowing the body to work, staying centered, fitting, as I discussed. Clothing has to on every human just to allow the skeletal system to operate the way that it does, the only way it does. I'm really stoked, as they say, bro, for In The Image Clothing Company Music. It's going to be really cool. I've had a little bit of a break from playing any instruments, about 3-4 months of a break of even owning any instruments. Yes. So it's going to be really cool. It's time to kind of get after it in all seriousness. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like something. I just mean it. It's going to be really sweet. I'm not making the plans, but I can just, you know, feel that we're in a place that we need to be. And those are the things that are coming because of that, right? Meaning, I am really good at making music. No egoic thing behind that. I just mean it. I hear music, I feel music through me, and it's going to be really cool to be able to have, you know, this intertwined with the whole company as a whole. And I'm going to do a lot of this as well, informational type stuff about helping people with their own instruments, helping people with potentially like the way that they approach playing or making music, because being self-taught with just about everything that I do music-wise, I come out of just the way that's most natural to me. And so I'm going to share a lot of insight on how to not buy into what people tell you when it comes to anything music-wise, because that's not what we need to be doing. So, this is so cool, man. So cool. All right. Yeah, that's all I'm going to mention as far as setup goes, and that's it. That's it for this little video here. This is the ukulele that's, you know, currently in my possession. So, it's a soprano size, little guy, smallest uke, right? There's a soprano, a concert, a tenor, and then a baritone, which is almost a different instrument in a sense because it's a different tuning. So, this is your little baby uke, but it's great. It can do anything that any other size, as far as the three, you know, the other two that are the step ups from this could do. Small size doesn't mean that it can't do big things. Seriously, you know, the metaphorical stuff as we have in the gospel applies to everything, because the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. So it's cool, man. I love little like robin egg type blue pastel color. It's cute. really cute. Really cute. We're gonna have some fun with music. It's gonna be great. I wanna kind of play something. I picked through a little bit of stuff, but I just think it's pretty darn out of tune, which is fine. Anyway, it's so sweet, man. It's sweet that this little tiny thing can just, it's gonna keep you busy all day. It could keep you having fun forever. You can take this anywhere, put it in your backpack. Really, I mean, yeah, in all seriousness, it's really, really cool. And what's so cool is out of all transparency, I'm just gonna say this, not that I would be hiding it if I weren't to have said it, but I made a video. Oh, I told that within this video that I did, yeah, about an hour or two ago. I made a video sitting right here with this, and that video is going to be deleted once I conclude this one here, because this is basically the same information within this one, except this one's better in the sense of I hadn't done these modifications to it before I filmed that video. So yeah, this is the first video that will actually be, available to see on this ukulele in my possession. So going forward, if you see this within anything in the Image Clothing Company music related, you will know now it's a little story. Bought it today on the date that I said. Well, it's past midnight, so the date that I actually bought it was the 9th of December 2024. And I like that it's just a soprano, and I'm a decently tall, full-grown man. I like that it's a really cute color, genuinely. I like to break misconceptions and preconceived ideas of myself and others, and I like to be the vessel for that to be able to happen through. And so, I feel that that's what this is doing. This little ukulele. So, okay, cool. Yeah. It's gonna be fun. I'm really excited for guitars. After I made that first video with this thing, I went in the other room and I felt good about picking through some strings, and it was exciting, and I could feel that, yeah, we're getting, like I'm saying within this video, back into making music again. And now the way that we're doing it is the way that it needs to be done through me, and it wasn't quite happening that way when I was making music months ago and into last year. So I was excited about that, but I was in there and I knew something needed to be changed, and I was praying through it. So I did these things that I said to this instrument, and yeah, I'm going to get a guitar. That's not me trying to make some promise out of my own doing. I'm gonna get a guitar. It's just gonna happen, and we're gonna get, yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm excited for people to see what I do with music. Because when I have a guitar in my hand, I use both of mine hands to play guitars. When I have a guitar, I just feel right about it. And that's going to just be able to be understood once there's content of me playing available to see. It's going to be so fun. You can see the genuine joy within me that I'm just sitting. This is In The Image Clothing Company. This is how it's been. This is how it'll always be. Raw and real. Here I am expressing my excitement. So it's going to be really sweet. It's been such a journey. 19 guitars, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, 19 is the number. I've had 19 guitars. I learned what I needed to. yeah, I'm excited. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I don't know how much this will get shown. I don't know how much this will get played. I don't know what this thing is going to look like as far as the future of me and it together will be. But if I keep it, if I don't, I mean, I've had and got rid of so many instruments that, I don't know as of now. I can't, I can't tell you what's going to happen with it. So if this doesn't get seen much more than that, at least there's this documented video on ukuleles. And then guitars will be coming. It's not me saying something. I can just feel that. Okay. Not my timing, not my plans. Praying through everything, surrendering, being obedient, messing up a ton. We're humans, sinful by nature. In the Image Clothing Company, thank you. My name is Evan Strong, the founder. There's a lot that you'll get from In the Image Clothing Company music. I want to say that, and I want it to be very clearly heard, because I'm not saying that just because I'm a good musician, but I'm going to say I'm a good musician, okay? But it's not just that. There's a lot that I'm going to give as far as little tiny things, the little things that people don't know, that I know, just because, again, I've gone through what I've needed to learn them, that will help everybody. The little tiny tweaks, the little tiny things within stringing instruments, like I discussed within this, the things that I discussed within this, really. And we'll get into more. Sitting while playing instruments, primarily guitar, all sorts of things. I mean, stuff that most other people wouldn't even be able to tell you because they don't know. Just the case, right? And that's why I'm going to share it, because that's why I've been given the information, is to be able to spread. It's like when we learn the gospel and remember the truth of all things, we're supposed to share it. And that's where the true fulfillment comes, because, yeah, it's very fulfilling to share. As much as I feel like there's only a degree that you can get enjoyment and pleasure and fulfillment out of yourself playing music just alone where nobody else hears it. But when you share music, what it does within people is a gift to be able to give. So it's going to be really cool, really fun. Yeah. It's been such a journey for me when it comes to music. It's been the amount of guitars that I said. It's been probably somewhere around 5 ukuleles. It's been a lot of torment. And yeah. As much as shoelacing and barefoot shoes are what founded In the Image Clothing Company, so are guitars and ukuleles as well, because it was the same time that I came up with, found, got given through revelation, all those things in combination, our shoelacing technique. It was in that same period of my life when I was playing guitars and doing all this learning that happened through that, as far as buying and selling, and yeah, when it comes to guitars, just going through a bunch of them, just like going through a bunch of shirts to figure out the dreaded collar seam modification, and spending a lot of time trying different lacing techniques to land on what I did. So I really do have a lot of knowledge. It's like when I talk about the human body and I say that I have an immense understanding of the human body and its natural workings and its natural form and how to just allow it to do that. I got a lot of knowledge, understanding, personal experience with guitars, and it's going to be awesome to be able to share. So, stringed instruments, this is kind of like our welcome to the stringed instruments part of In the Image Clothing Company music. Here you go. Yeah. It's cool, man. It's been a journey, man. It's been worth it, man. You know, I mentioned and we'll talk about it within the podcast and everything that we do. This life's not about getting anywhere. If you never got anywhere, quote unquote, before you died, wouldn't matter. The point is to get closer to Christ. And within all this stuff that I experienced through this whole journey of what I'm discussing with these instruments, that's what I did. It's because I was pleading and begging to help me know what I needed to do, because like I said I just knew that I was going to play guitar, but didn't know why, didn't know how it was going to look, and didn't know what was wrong when everything felt so terrible. And now I do. So, okay, thank you.